Okay, so most of the code that we write is going to be within a JavaScript sandbox, which is just a bunch of files and folders that are going to pertain to each section of the course. But before we do that, I just want to show you the very basics of just creating an HTML and a JavaScript file and running the JavaScript in the browser, etc. And for those of you that aren't pure beginners, just kind of bear with me because I do want this course to be for everybody, even if they're just starting out with JavaScript. So you can skip some of these videos if you want, or just watch them as a refresher. So I'm just going to create a folder. So go ahead and create a folder wherever you want. I'm going to create it on my desktop, and I'm just going to call it, I'll call it my-website. And I'm going to delete this after, so it doesn't matter. Now you want to open the folder with your text editor, and there's multiple ways to do that. You can open the text editor and you can open the folder from there, or you can usually on Windows, you can usually right click, and if you're using VS Code, you'll see an option to open with code. So you can go ahead and do that. If you're using Sublime Text, I think you also have a context item. If you're on a Mac, what you can do is drag the folder down to the VS Code icon or whatever you're using, and it will open it up, and you can see on the side here is our My Website folder. So from here, I'm going to create a new file. Just click this icon, and let's say index.html. So now we have an HTML file, and with VS Code, we have a tool called Emmet, which is really great for writing quick HTML and CSS. So for instance, I could do h1 enter, gives me an h1 tag. If I want to add a class, I could say like my class, so dot my class enter or tab. And then if I wanted an ID, I could do my ID enter or tab. And let's say I wanted like 5 h1s, I could do times 5. There's all types of stuff you can do. So I do have a YouTube video on Emmet if you're interested. But another thing Emmet allows us to do is just create a kind of a boilerplate for our HTML. So I'm just going to hit exclamation enter, and you can see it gives us our head, body tags, etc. And again, if I know a lot of you guys already know this, most of you probably do, but just bear with me. So if I just hit tab a couple times, I can go to the title and just change it to, let's say, my website. And then in the body, for now, I'm just going to put an h1 and then hello world, and save that. Okay, now since this is an HTML file, I can just open it. Like I can just click on it, make sure it opens with a browser, and we'll be able to see the hello world. So you can just develop like this if you want for this course. Like I'm just going to make this smaller. So if we change something, like let's say we put an exclamation here and I save, obviously, since I just opened it on my file system, not on any kind of server, I go over here and I have to reload. Now, I don't want to have to do that for everything, so that's where live server comes in. So what we can do, as long as you have it installed, just search for live server, so right here, and get that installed. And then you'll see this go live button down here. You could click that, or you could right click and just say open with live server. And what it'll do is open up another tab, and you can see in the URL bar, this is our local host. This is 127.0.0.1. That's called our loopback address, and it runs on port 5500 by default. Now, if I were to change something, like let's say get rid of this exclamation and save, you'll see it auto updates or auto reloads in the browser, so I don't have to keep reloading. And that is with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, I expect that you guys know HTML. You should know at least the basics of CSS, so I'm not going to really get into that. To start to write JavaScript, there's a couple ways we can do it. One way is not really recommended, but I'm going to show you it anyway, and that is to just write it directly in the HTML. So to do that, what you would do is go down right above the ending body tag and create a script tag, which is an HTML tag. And then anything we write in here is gonna run as our JavaScript. So for instance, we could do alert, which is just it's a function that's on the window object, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And we can pass in here, let's put a string, so we need our quotes. And again, I'm going to talk about data types and all that very soon, but I'm just going to do a hello and save. And you'll see that that's going to automatically run because we are using live server. So since the file changed, the website reloaded, and now we're seeing this alert of hello. All right. Now, typically, you're not going to do this. You're not going to write your JavaScript directly in your HTML. It's just bad practice. You want to have your JavaScript separate. Okay, this is called inline JavaScript. Just like with your CSS, you normally wouldn't write your CSS in your HTML. You'd create a separate file. So let's create a new file, and you can call it whatever. I like to use script.js for just general JavaScript files. And this will show us our alert again because the page reloaded. And then in here, let's write something else. We'll do an alert, and let's say hello from the JS file. Now, if I save this, we're still just seeing the hello that's in the index.html because we haven't specified that we actually want this file to run. So to do that, we'll come over here. Let's get rid of the inline JavaScript, but we're going to keep the script tags. Now, to load this script.js file, we can just add a source attribute, much like you would do with an image tag. So let's just say script.js. It's in the same folder. You might have it in a JavaScript folder or JS folder like that, but ours is right there. So we'll go ahead and save. And now we're going to see this hello from JS file. Okay, so that JavaScript file is now being loaded. Very, very, very simple stuff. I know 90% of you probably already know this. But of course, I need to think of people of all skill levels. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is stop live server, and you can do that by hitting this button right here. You can also right click and say stop live server, and now if I reload this, it's not going to work anymore. Okay, so I'm going to close VS Code, and I'm just going to delete this my website folder, and then in the next video we're going to start to learn about the console in the browser, which is extremely important, and we're going to start working on our JavaScript sandbox.